Hey guys, in this video we're going to review the Nuxt.js framework, and then we are going to create a job posting application using server-side rendering with Nuxt.js, of course. We're going to use Vuetify to add the visual components for this application and Axios to consume the GitHub Shop's public API. What is Nuxt.js? Nuxt.js is a framework based on the Vue.js framework and is typically used to implement server-side rendering or universal applications. Nuxt.js also allows you to generate a static website, and for example, you can generate the static assets of your application and upload that to an S3 bucket on AWS. You can also create a traditional single-page application using Vue.js. So what are the main features of Nuxt.js? You can write Vue files or components just like in a traditional single-page application with Vue.js. You get server-side rendering, you get a powerful routing system with asynchronous data. We're gonna see that in a minute. You get static file serving, bundling and minifying for your JavaScript and CSS files. You can easily manage the head element, the title tag, the meta tag, and some others. You get a hot module replacement in development, and you get preprocessor support for Sass, LESS, and some others. What are the modules that are part of Nuxt.js? You get Vue 2, you get Vue Router, you get Vuex. I already added videos about these topics, so definitely check those videos out. And you also get Vue Server Rendering and Vue Meta. The last two are the ones that we are going to cover today. What are the benefits of using server-side rendering with Nuxt.js? You get an improved user experience, you get an improved on-page SEO. Nuxt.js will fetch the Ajax data and is going to render all the Vue.js components into HTML on the server. This feature allows the search engine crawlers, such as the Google bot, to index the website with all the HTML DOM elements in the client. With single-page applications, there is no content initially because all the HTML is created on demand after the JavaScript has loaded. And you can easily manage every page title and meta tags to include the keywords that you want to target. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. So let's get started. Okay, let's create our Nuxt shop posting application, and let's create the initial structure of the project. And to do that, we need to run npx create Nuxt app, and the name of the application, in this case, is going to be a shop posting app. The project name is going to be, I'm going to give it as it is, shop posting app. Description, Pragmatic reviews as the author. I'm going to use npm as the package manager. For the UI framework, I'm going to select Vuetify. You have a lot of options here. You have and design view, bootstrap view, view 5, Vilma, element, framework, iView, tachyons or something like that, Tailwind CSS, and Vuetify.js. Remember to check out the previous videos that I uploaded. I uploaded some videos about Vuetify.js, so definitely watch those videos so you have an understanding and you have some sample components and how to use them. Let's move on. And you can also select your server framework. You can select Adonis.js, Express, Fastify, Feathers, Happy, Koa, and Micro. These are the most popular servers out there. So I'm going to select the most popular one, that is Express. And here I'm going to select Axios. And I'm going to select ESLint. And the test framework, let's say Chess. And these are the two options that we have. We can select universal or server-side rendering. or single page application, I'm going to select universal to use the server-side rendering features of the framework. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select, yes, development tools, yes, because I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for that. And this is going to install all the packages for us. Okay, and if we go now to the package.json file, we're gonna see that we have our dependencies, our dev dependencies, where we have a nodemon, for example, and now we are going to start the development server, and it's going to start the nodemon service for us. And some other dev dependencies are Nuxt.js Vuetify, ESLint, Bubble ESLint, and some others. Chest, Vuejs. Okay, I'm going to close this. I'm going to open a new terminal, and I'm going to start a server. npm run dev. I'm going to open a browser really quick here on the right side of the screen, so we can see it side by side. Yeah, that's the port. Okay, and this is the application that it generates by default with the settings that we selected: Vuetify, Express, Axios. So this is what generates. As we can see here, is going to automatically generate the routing across the pages. This is the index page that we can see here, this one, and there is a Nuxt link, I guess at the end. Yes, here. There is a Nuxt attribute in this button that allows us to navigate across the different pages. This continue button here is going to redirect us to the inspire page that is actually this one within the same folder. Remember that all the pages that we create here are automatically picked up by the framework and the routes are generated. If we create, for example, for this application, we're going to create a new page that is going to be shop postings. So it's going to pick that page up, and we are going to be able to access by entering here, for example, shop postings. And using that URL, we will be able to access that page that we create on that folder. Let's quickly review the directory structure provided by the framework. So we have an assets folder where we are going to include things like less and SAS assets. The components folder is going to include all the Vue.js components. The differences are going to be just some specific tags that are provided by Nuxt. After the components folder, we have the layouts folder where we can add the different layouts for the application. Then we have the middleware folder where we can add custom functions that are going to run before the pages. For example, if we want to add some kind of authentication for our pages, we can add that logic here. Then we have the pages folder that is going to include all the views for the application, and the router will pick up these pages and will create the URLs associated to these pages dynamically. That's a really cool feature from Nuxt. Then we have the plugins folder that are going to run before the init of Vue.js. And then we have the store folder here where we can include all the files required for Vuex. Another important folder that I forgot to mention is the static folder where we can include the robots file, for example. Okay, let's move on and let's create an about page for the shop postings app. I'm going to create a new file within the pages folder about that view. And as in any other Vue component, in this case, we are going to include here on a page. This is a specific concept of Nuxt.js. So as usual, we include template tag and the script tag. And in particular, the script tag is going to be the place where we're going to include the head function, where we are going to define some metadata for the page. This is one of the benefits of server-side rendering, that we can add metadata, title, and some other data related to the SEO to optimize the SEO of our page on the server, so it gets rendered directly on the client. So that's the big difference with single page applications. With the first request, you get just an empty HTML, and then you start pulling different HTML contents, and the DOM gets rendered on demand. In this case, the DOM is rendered on the server and you download it all at once. So first, let's add some really simple structure here. Let's add a big container. This is a Vuetify container, one of the containers that Vuetify provides, and we are going to add an h1. Let's add a description here about shop postings app, and just a paragraph with some really simple description. Let's say this app will allow us to show all the shops published by the GitHub's shops public API. So that's what we're going to use. Let's add our head function first. Here on the head function, we are going to return an object that is going to include two things: the title of the page and the metadata of the page. We are going to add just one meta tag that is going to be the description tag. Okay, first we find the title. In this case, it's going to be the about the shop posting app, and then we create an array where we are going to put all our meta tags. In this case, we are going to define just one meta tag. It's going to be the description meta tag. So we create an object literal for that, and this is going to be the identifier. It's going to be description. The name of the meta tag is going to be description as well. I'm going to copy that. And the content of the meta tag is going to be something like find the best programming shops here. Okay, now if we go to the about URL, we're going to see that we have our about shop posting app with this paragraph. And if we go to the source, we're going to see that we have this meta tag as part of the HTML. We have the title, that is actually this one, about the shop posting app. And then we have our metadata description, that is this one. This is the name of the tag here, description. And then we have the content, that is find the best programming shops there. And besides the description meta tag that we find here, we can scroll down and we can see that also is rendering all the HTML directly on the server. There are some tags auto-generated by Nuxt, for example, this one that the server rendered through, because it's rendering all the HTML and the meta tags and title of the page. on the server. So, and here is our H1, and here is our paragraph. That is actually the content that we can see here. Okay, let's move on and let's go to the layout folder. Here I clean up the default values of this layout, and the basic tags that you need to include are these. You need to include a VApp and the Nuxt tag. The Nuxt tag, or the Nuxt component, will allow you to include pages. If you don't include this tag, you won't be able to include the pages that you define here on the pages folder. So that's important. What we're going to also include on this default layout, that is going to be part of all the pages in the application, is going to be a menu. And for that, we're going to create a new component that is going to be the app header component. And here we are going to create the menu, and we are going to iterate an array that is going to include the item and the label of the item and the page that is going to redirect each option of the menu. So let's do that. Let's include the template as usual and the script. And here we're going to include a big container. This is one of the elements that Vuetify provides to add to organize our content. So, we're going to do a div. Let's assign a class to center everything, text center. And here we're going to create a menu using the vMenu tag provided by Vuetify. And we're going to put this menu on top. And within this menu, we're going to create our list of options, the list. And within this list, we are going to include different items. The list item, and I'm going to keep it. Close this. And here, first we need to create our items object using the data function. So in this tag, what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over that array, and we're going to show all the different menu options there. So first, we need to assign a name to the component that is going to be app header. And then we're going to define our data function. And here we define our items array. Okay, and each item is going to be an object that is going to include two attributes: the title for the first page. We're going to define a home page where we're going to put all the shop postings with an image and a link and the title of the shop, and a to attribute that is going to be the name of the page where the user will be redirected once you click on this menu option. Name, in this case, the name of the page is going to be the index page. And we're going to also create another option for the about page that we just created. About, and this is going to be about. Okay, and here we need to use a before And here we are going to access the item and the index of the item in items. And we need to define, as usual, a key. We need to define a key for each item. That is going to be, in this case, the index. Okay, let's close this tag. And here, what we're going to add is a special tag provided by Nuxt, that is a Nuxt link. And here we define the destination of the link. That is going to be the to property of the menu item that we define on the array. And we're going to close this. And I'm going to add an item title using the blist item title, this one. And here I'm going to print out the title of the item. And that's pretty much it for the menu. And now I'm going to include that component here as part of the default layout. So we can show this menu as part of all the pages of our application. So app header from that components / app header. And here we need to find the components that we're going to use. So be an object, and we're going to include app header. And we need to actually include the component app header. And in order to render all the menu items, I'm going to include this template with a slot. Now here. Okay, and now with this template, what I'm doing is I'm going to replacing each of these buttons, the options below this button are going to be filled by these Nuxt links that we defined here. So if I go there, I can access the index page and the about page. So here is our menu. And now let's move on to the index page, where we are going to include the shop listing. So first we are going to create a component. It's going to be the shop post title component that is going to include the image of the company. If we go to the GitHub shop posts API, here we can see that we're going to use this endpoint, the positions for a node, and we have these attributes on each of these shop objects: an ID, a type, a URL, created at, company URL, location, title, description, how to apply company logo. So what we're going to do for the first component is we're going to include a card with the title of the job and the company logo to show an image as part of that card. Okay, here in the index.view page, I already created an initial structure using a container, a layout, a container, and I'm going to use a row and multiple columns to show all the shop postings. And on this page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show just the image and the title with a link to go to the description of the shop. And that image and that link is going to be part of a new component that I'm going to create here. I'm going to call it shop post title. Let's create it. Template, script. And here I'm going to use a Pcard. And this Pcard is going to include an image, and it's going to include a divider, divider, and it's going to include a Pcard title with the title of the job. That is going to be actually this attribute here, title. Okay, so Pcard, okay, Pcard title, like that. Okay, so let's define the props for this component, but first the name of the component. That is going to be shop post title, and the props that this component is going to receive from the index.vue page is just going to be the job. We're going to receive the whole object here, and we're going to define that here. Shop the type of this prop is going to be an object. The shop object is going to be required, and the default value is going to be just an empty object. Okay, and here what we're going to use is the source of this image is going to be the shop.company logo here, and the card title is going to be the shop title. So we can add that here. Shop.title. That is this attribute right here. Okay. So this is pretty much the structure of the component. Then we can add some styling, but this is the information that we want to show and the basic tags for that. Let's go back to the index page, and here we're going to import that component. Import shop post title from dot components shop post title, and here we define the components that we're going to use. In this case, it's going to be just the shop post title, and here we need to add a couple of things. We're going to include a data function that is going to include our model. Let's call it all jobs. There's going to be the array that we're going to fill with the contents provided by the GitHub's API. So I'm going to create the head function that we already created. Actually, I'm going to grab that from our about page. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to replace the contents. So I'm going to copy this here. Okay. And here I'm going to change the title to shop postings, and the identifier of the tag, meta tag, is going to be description. The name is going to be description. And here I can add something different, like all shop postings from GitHub. And what we're going to add here is a special function from Nuxt that is async data that will allow us to pull the information from the GitHub API. So first I need to import Axios for that to make the call to the API. Import Axios from Axios. And here I'm going to find an async function that is async data, async data, like that. And I'm going to receive two parameters. The params object and an error object. And here I'm going to use a try catch. Here I can invoke the error function where I can pass an object with a message. For example, message is going to be a string, no shops found, for example. And I can also pass the status code. Let's say 404. And here I'm going to get the data from the API. Here I'm going to use await Axios.get. And here I'm going to use the URL. But here, before doing the tutorial, I tested the API and I got some CORS issues. So I had to add some proxy settings. So I'm going to show you how to add a proxy so you don't have this issue, this CORS issue yourself. So you need to go to Nuxt.config.js, and there is a section over here. Yeah, first we need to install, we're going to do that right now, npm install npm install Nuxt.js proxy. Okay, and now I'm going to include that here as part of the modules. Proxy. And I need to add the proxy section here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map a local URI with the target URL that is actually the GitHub URL. So I'm going to add the local endpoint that is going to be /API. And here I need to find an object. And this object is going to have the target that is going to be the GitHub API. That is actually this one, shops.github.com. And I need to use a path rewrite, where I'm going to replace the API URI by the slash, so we can access the target URL. So I need to add basically this expression. I guess this is part of the Nuxt frequently asked questions. Here I think here is where I found this documentation. Let me check really quick. Max factor course. course, course here. Here is basically what I'm using. So I'm going to copy this. And that's pretty much it. So let's go back to the index.vue. First, let's start again the server. Okay, let's go back to the index page. And here we can use HTTP, localhost, port 3000. That is the default port where the Nuxt application is going to run. /API, this is the URI that we defined here. And here we use the same that the URI, that the target URI is using to fetch the data. In this case, we're going to fetch the data using this search query string. So we're going to add that at the end. And I'm going to return all jobs data. And what we need to do with that data, we're going to loop through that array through this all jobs array that we are feeding here. And I'm going to pass that shop data to this shop post title component that is part of its props. Okay, I'm going to use this div to iterate over the array. B for job in all jobs. We need to add a key as usual. Key that is going to be the shop.id. Let's close this tag. And here I'm going to add a Nuxt link again. This is the way that Nuxt provides to navigate through our pages with server-side rendering. So I'm going to add the relative path that is actually shops. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to concatenate the shop ID. So for this, I'm going to create a new page, an underscore ID page within the shops folder, so we can access this ID as a parameter to fetch the API again and get the full details of the shop. Okay, I'm going to close this. And here I'm going to include the shop post title element, shop post title. And I'm going to show this element. I've been testing the API and there are some fields that are not completed. So I'm going to show only those jobs where the image is part of the payload and the title is part of the payload as well. So I'm going to add a condition that I'm going to only show this component if the company logo is present, company is not null, and if the title is not null. Okay, I need to close this tag. Okay, now we have our initial version of the website, including the images and the titles. And as we can see, we have the URL slash shops slash the identifier of the shop. And this is something that we are going to create in just a minute. And again, if we inspect the page, we're going to see that all the contents are rendered on the server. We have the title here somewhere on the head. Yeah, the shop postings. That is the title that we defined here on the head function. Let's go there. Here is this part. Okay, and also we have the metadata. That is the description. That is the one that we defined here. All shop postings from GitHub is this content attribute from this meta tag. And the same, of course, with the HTML, right? Here we have the rows, and here we have each of these cards. Where we have a div, we have the title, and here we should have the image somewhere. That is actually the background image. It's using the background image to include the logo of the company. And here we have the link that we generated dynamically. Okay, and now if we want to access to any of these URLs, we're gonna get an error. So in order to define this URL, we need to create a new folder here within the pages folder. That is going to be the shops folder. And in order to get access to this parameter, that is actually the identifier of the job, we're going to need to create a special page that's going to be the _id.view page. And that will allow us to access that identifier and invoke the GitHub API again and get the specific data for that shop identifier. So we are going to add a template and a script tag as usual. And here we're going to add a simple layout. The layout. And here we are going to add a shop post. For now, we are going to add a div. Shop post details go here. Okay, and here we have our page. And what we need to do here is we're going to create another component that is going to include the logo of the company, the title of the job, and the description of the job. So we're going to create that component right now. So let's go to the components folder and let's add a new file that's going to be the shop post. And as usual, we need to add the template tag and the script tag. We're going to use a B container. And we're going to use a Pcard to include all these 3 attributes from the shop description. That are going to be the image, the image, the Pcard title, and the Pcard text, Pcard text. This Pcard text is going to include the description attribute that is actually in HTML format. So we're going to see how to fill that, or how to assign these HTML contents to this Pcard text tag. Okay, first let's define the name of this component. That is going to be shop post. And then define the props that are going to be actually just like the shop post title component. So we can copy that and we can reuse that here. So show the image. The source of the image is going to be shop.company underscore logo. We're going to define a divider just to separate all these fields. The divider, and we're going to also use a divider here, and I think that's fine. And the title is going to be let's close this. Let's add a paragraph, and the paragraph is going to include the title of the job. And the text is going to include a bhtml tag, and using this we are going to be able to render the HTML that we receive as part of the description of the job. Description. And that's pretty much the structure of this component. We can add some CSS later, but this is the information that we need to show, and these are the tags that we basically need to do that. So let's go back to the underscore ID page, and here we need to find the script tag, and we need to import the component that we created, that is the shop post component, from components/shop post. And here we need to define first the components that we're going to use. Actually, one component, that is the shop post component. We're going to define the data function. Where we're going to return the current job, and as usual we have the head function. That the difference in this case is that we're going to fill the title and the meta tags dynamically using the data that is part of this shop post specifically. Previously, we created these meta tags and the title using static string, and a string, a hard-coded string. In this case, we're going to use a couple of functions to get the data from the shop post. So in this case, are going to be dynamic, are going to depend on the shop post that we are accessing at that moment. Okay, in order to get the metadata and the title assigned to this page dynamically using the shop attributes, we're going to define the head function here. I'm actually going to grab the head function from here. And we're going to adapt this function to get the information from the actual job. So I'm going to add a couple of methods here at the end. This is going to be an object with a couple of functions. So the first function is going to be to get the data, to get the title from the job. Get meta title, and we're going to actually add the shop title plus the company. So that is going to provide some more information about the job. So we're going to return here this that current job post, this that current job post that title. We're going to append a string. So this is the title at, and we're going to access the company name, that company. That is actually this attribute here. Okay. So that's the function that we're going to use to fill the title of our head function. And I'm going to add another function for the meta description. That's going to be get meta description. And in this case, we're going to use basically the same. And we can add some more text. Get a position, or up, let's say something like apply for a position, for the position and we're going to call those functions from here. This that get meta title, and here we're going to use this that get meta description, like that. And now we get an error that says the shop post component has been registered but not used. Yeah, that's right, because we didn't do anything with that. So we're going to remove this div, and we're going to use the shop post component, and we're going to pass the job to it. That is going to be the current job post attribute that we define here as part of the data function. And now if we go there, we get an empty result because we need to fetch actually the data from the server again. So we're gonna need to define another async data function and use the ID that is part of the URL, this part actually, to call the GitHub API using the local proxy, of course, to avoid any CORS errors. And doing that, we're going to get the shop data. Okay, so let's add the async function here. That is async data. I'm going to grab actually this function from the index. Yeah, and I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to copy that. And we need to change the URL. That in this case, we need to use backticks here. And we're going to need to use here a template literal. params.id. Using that, we're gonna get access to the identifier that we get in the URL. And actually, I need to add, positions / and that should be it. If we go to the GitHub documentation, let's go back here, and here is somewhere here. If we want to access to the specific position, we need to specify /position, the identifier, .json. And that's what we're doing here. The only change is that we're using the proxy. So that's why we add that /API prefix as part of the URI. And here what we need to do is assign the result to the current shop post. And I forgot to import Axios. Let's do that. Import Axios from Axios. Okay, Axios. If I refresh, we get the description of the job. And now if we go back to the shop postings, we get the list with the images, and we can access any of these links. And I think I forgot to add a divider. We have the image, the divider, and the title. A typo here. We'll save this, and now we should get, now we get the title here. Okay, now we're good. Of course, this needs some styling. And another thing that is missing that I would like to add in a future video is actually make a friendly URL. So not this identifier, but use maybe the title plus the identifier, but something that includes the keywords that we want to target on our page for this, for the search engine optimization of the page. So again, if we go to the source code of this page, we're going to see that we have the title that is dynamic. That is the one that we assign here on the page. Lead from engineer and the company. And here we also have this content for the meta description. Apply for the position, lead from engineer at the company. And the same with the HTML, right? Here we get the HTML and the image, I guess, here, background. So let's quickly review what we've done. We created a server-side rendered application using Nuxt. We are using Axios to consume the GitHub API. We are using a couple of components, one for the title, that is actually the ones that we are showing here, that we can see here, that include an image and the title of the shop. And then once we click on each of these posting, we access another page that includes a component with the image, the title, plus the description in HTML. And we are also adding the title and the meta description dynamically in this case, and statically here on the index here. And also we added the same title and meta description statically here on the about page. Of course, there is some styling to do for this page, but I think it's good enough for a proof of concept. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and I see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.